welcome everybody. Sorry about that. Welcome to our next financial webinar. Sorry for the delay. Was scheduled for a couple of weeks ago, but we did have a fun hurricane come through. Hope everybody else is doing well. So I'm Michael Horn, Vice President here at Final Frontiers Foundation.
Yeah, I'm Daniel Nelms, President of Final Frontiers.
And my name is Scott Vigneri, anything close, and I'll be the presenter for today.
All right, Scott, so I'll let you take it away.
All right. We have talked about many, many different things, and I've talked about some rather sophisticated and types of ways to make contributions and to do charitable donations. We've talked about charitable remainder trusts and many of these more exotic things. But I'm going to start transitioning towards a little different tack, and I'm going to talk about debt. And, you know, many of the things I've talked about don't have a large impact because many people are not in a position to take advantage of some of those, like a charitable remainder trust. I am helping some people set one up right now, and then the cost of the trust, just setting it up and the modeling that was needed to do that is $9,000. And for many of us, $9,000 in itself would be a pretty generous donation.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was geared towards a lot of higher net worth people. And I did it on purpose to kind of help attract those kind of people and to help the ministry. But by the same token, many, many of us are in debt. And there is the stigma that debt can be a bad thing, but that has changed. And debt is actually what makes the world go round. And let me see if I can, because that is hard for me to see. There we go. As it says on the slide here, unprecedented global debt. And we have, as of early 2024, 315 trillion, and it's nearly triple the global GDP. The global GDP is only about 1 trillion, give or take, whereas the global debt is over 300 trillion. It's even higher than that. I think it's almost 320 now. When we get in these kind of numbers, the rate at which it can grow is just mind-staggering. And so credit and debt, in a very real sense, is what makes the world go round, literally. And so what do we do with that? How does that impact us? Let's move on to the next slide. The scale of global debt, we have mature economies such as the United States and different parts of Europe. They account for 2/3 of the world's global debt. Japan and the United States are the most in-debt countries. And because of their financial systems, it allows for a higher debt tolerance. But as we've seen, it's not that tolerant. And interest rates, 50 basis points that the Fed dropped 3 weeks ago, had a major impact on a lot of people, and it impacted the market. And a lot of people were anxious for that. And there's going to be more to come. And the world, for the most part, is listening to what the Fed has to say. 50 basis points, that's half a percentage point, and what an impact that can have. Then we have emerging markets. They owe 105 trillion. And they are experiencing a significant surge in debt. And this reflects rapid economic growth, but also highlights the potential vulnerabilities in these developing systems. And then we have the developing countries, and their debt burden varies dramatically across different areas. Asia and Oceania hold 27% of the global public debt, while Latin America and the Caribbean 5%, Africa is 2%. But a lot of this debt is used to fund growth. And if you are familiar with the International Monetary Fund, a lot of these countries will go to the International Monetary Fund and get loans from them. And the International Monetary funds it from all over the world, sources it from all over the world, and then it gives out to different countries. And they're trying to help these developing countries and some emerging markets build their economy and make their economy better for their people. So the scale of debt on a global basis is huge, as we've already mentioned. The mature economies have most of the debt. So let's move on to the next slide. See if I can. My screen, it is very small. The burden of external debt on developing countries. In 2022, countries face a staggering $365 billion in debt service in external public debt. That's 6.3% of the export revenues. In a historical context, the burden far exceeds the 5% limit set by the 1953 London Agreement on Germany's war debt, which, if you remember history, there was a time where Germany, the economy was so bad that literally you could take a wheelbarrow full of money and buy a loaf of bread. That's what it would cost you. And I'm sure you've seen pictures of children with stacks of German money playing with it out on the sidewalk. I don't mean a little stack like this. I mean stacks like this, because it was so worthless because of the debt that was behind it. Developing regions borrow at rates 2 to 4 times higher than what the United States does, and 6 to 12 times higher than Germany, which makes it even more difficult. And we experience that in many cases here in the US. Why do we have, Credit Karma and Equifax and TransUnion? We get on there to find out what our credit report is saying. What is our credit rating? Are you a 550? Are you a 640? Are you a 760? Are you an 800? Wow, good for you. And that number dictates what kind of interest rate we get. A person who has an 800, they're creditworthy, and so they will get a pretty competitive interest rate. But somebody who's in a 5 or 4, they're going to pay more because they are perceived as an extra risk. And that's exactly what's happening here with these developing countries. They have to pay a higher rate because they're considered a risk because they're a developing country and their economy is not matured yet. Next slide, please. Business debt. It can be a double-edged sword. High levels of debt repayment can significantly limit a business's ability to invest in job creation and expansion. And it can stifle growth and innovation. It also can make a business unable to meet their loan obligations, and then they face the threat of insolvency or bankruptcy, which can have far-reaching consequences for employees, suppliers, and the broader economy. COVID impacted a lot of businesses, and we're still seeing that. And now we're still seeing other businesses. You know, I saw a hardware chain that is going bankrupt, a nationwide chain. In fact, we have 2 of them in our town, and they are being sold out because I'll say the mother company is insolvent and they're having to bail out. And we can look in the records and say, well, they just didn't manage it very well. There can be something to be said about that, but at the same time, if you used to have 1,000 clients a week in your store and now you're down to 400, and you got all this revenue. I mean, you got all these materials and all these products, and it's not moving, but you still had to pay for it. And in many cases, you took a short-term loan to finance paying for that because you got 1,000 clients coming in a week, but now you're down to 400. And now you've had to lay off some people because you just can't afford to pay them. And there's not that many people coming in. Now you're down to 250 people a week. And it keeps going down, down, down until you've still got all this inventory, but nobody's buying. And that's happening to more and more businesses around the nation. So they're having to go bankrupt. Well, now they had at one point, let's say they had 25 employees. Now they're down to 10. Those 15 people don't have a job. And now they're about to be down to 0 because they filed bankruptcy and they're going to close the stores. Now the vendor that sold all this inventory, he's not getting paid. So what's he going to do? And he sold to this store, but he also sold to this store and this store and this store. And this chain, I think it's 75 stores or 750 stores that's going under. Sometimes another vendor will come and buy it, but usually when they buy it, it's at a loss. And just to get it off the books, many times the one that is in debt will sell it at a loss just to get it off the books and get it taken care of. Same thing with the vendor that sold them the materials. So many businesses are encouraged to collateralize debt rather than rely on capitalization. But that can lead to a cycle of borrowing and increased risk as well. So as a business, and many business owners may be on here right now. So as a business struggles with debt, their capacity for what we'll call corporate social responsibility and charitable contributions may be significantly reduced. As I mentioned, I'm working with a couple. We're setting up a charitable remainder trust. The cost of that is $9,000. And for many of us, that cost in itself would be a major contribution. But most of us, you know, we have credit card debt, we have car payments, we have house payment, we have utilities, we have food. Food is going up and everything's getting more and more expensive. And we can't afford it. We would love to be able to give more to Final Frontiers, but we just can't because we have credit card debt. We have, like I said, car payments, truck payments. You know, we have an ATV in the driveway. We have a jet ski. We have a boat. We have a camper. Are those things bad? No, they're not. But when things get to the point where we are in such debt that the debt is managing us instead of us managing the debt, that's where we start running into problems. And another factor to that is like we just talked about. You have a job. You depend on that paycheck. You know you're going to get, let's say, $500 a week. But now you're not getting the hours. Now it's $300 a week. Well, now it's getting harder to make those credit card payments, isn't it? And now it's getting harder to make that boat payment. And many of us are getting in a situation where we have to decide, do I buy groceries or do I skip the car payment? And if I skip the car payment, I do that too many times, I may lose the car. Well, if I lose the car, how am I going to get to work? Sorry, kids, it's going to be popcorn for lunch. We've all been there. And many of us listening right now may be there right now. That's just the reality of it. So next page. So we talked about business and we talked about the global. What about household debt? The personal financial squeeze. Spending cutbacks. High levels of household debt often force families to reduce spending on essentials like food and fuel, impacting the quality of life and overall well-being. That's what we just talked about. Some people are losing their cars. Some people are losing, the boat or the camper or the ATV or, something like that. And the quality of life, you used to take the kids out on the weekend on the boat. Can't do that anymore. The boat's gone. And then kids are, Dad, where's the boat? It's making it hard for a lot of people. So low income households are particularly vulnerable to the negative effects of debt. And this exacerbates the existing economic inequalities. And then we have the global per capita debt. If the world's debt were equally distributed, each person would owe $39,000, highlighting the enormous scale of global indebtedness. There's over 8 billion people in the world, times 39,000. There are many, probably the great majority of the people in the world don't even make $39,000 a year. Many of the countries that Final Frontier supports, we have one gentleman that we support who was a pastor with, I don't remember how many children, 6, 7 children, $300 a month. We were willing to give him more. He said, no, I don't need that. And he works hard, but $300 a month. And here the global debt is $39,000 per person. And obviously these numbers are not going to be to the penny accurate. They're just ballpark numbers for the most part, but still. Okay, it's 35,000. What difference does that make? Society's credit culture. Society's emphasis on maintaining good credit ratings often overshadows the importance of saving and investing, which potentially leads to a cycle of debt and dependency. We are all taught very long, and we get inundated with commercials. I get emails all the time from Credit Karma. Scott, check out your credit. TransUnion, I get stuff from TransUnion. And if I get it, you most likely get it too. And Credit Karma has the ad thing where you can now upgrade your credit score in less than a week or something like that, or 30 days. So we are taught to be so careful about our credit score because we want to borrow money and we want to have a good credit score so we can borrow that money. But nobody really talks much about how to save and how to set aside. Am I saying that debt is bad? No. There are camps that will say debt is very bad. The Bible says, owe no man anything. It does say that. But there's also the story where Jesus is talking about the 3 servants, and they were each given some money, and the third one was so terrified that he buried it in the dirt. And the master was so angry with him. He said, you didn't even put it somewhere where I could earn interest. Well, interest is coming from loaning it to somebody. So debt in the right context can be good. Let's go on to the next page. The dual nature of debt and credit. It can be used for leverage, and it can help amplify investment returns, but it can lead to negative losses. Accessibility, and it enables major purchases, such as a home or a boat or an ATV. But it can trap us into debt cycles. It can help stimulate spending and investment, which creates economic growth. But it can at the same time create unsustainable bubbles. Financial management. It can teach responsibility when used wisely, but it can lead to ruin if mismanaged. Next page. So let's talk about some strategies for responsible debt management. Create a budget. Whoa, is that an awful word or what? Don't you hate the sound of that word, budget? It sounds so boring. And it sounds so restrictive. It sounds like prison. It sounds like the word doesn't have a very good connotation for most people. But it can save your life, literally. So develop a comprehensive budget that accounts for all income and expenses and prioritize debt, repayment, and savings. Emphasize that last point, savings. Learn how to make those credit card payments, but yet learn how to set some aside. You know, God tells us that he wants us to give 10% of what we earn because he gives us the ability to earn. Many of us are not paying that because we can't, because we have to pay the credit card company. But what's more important? God, who gives you every breath and every beat of your heart, who gave you the ability, who gave you that job. He didn't give me that job. I got that. He gave you that job. I was in surgery a couple of weeks ago and I wasn't able to work, folks. But now I'm out and God got me out and I'm able to go continue to work because of this. I mean, here we are. We're on a webinar right now. A couple of weeks ago, couldn't have done this webinar. I mean, unless you wanted to visit me in the hospital. And so God gives me every breath I take and every beat of my heart. So I want to be sure and honor God and give him the tithe. And you know what? God will take care of you. No, you're not going to get rich. No, you've heard stories, well, my car never breaks down. That's not going to happen. Just that can happen, but don't bank on that. You're going to endure everything just like everybody else. The kids are going to get sick. The water heater is going to go out. The sink's going to get backed up. And if you have kids, the toilet's going to get backed up. We've all been there. And yes, you're either going to have to buy the equipment and take care of things yourself, or you're going to have to call a plumber. They're not cheap. But God will help you through all that. And just learn how to develop a budget and focus on that savings. And invest the time in learning about personal finance. Learn about debt management. Learn about investment strategies and learn how to make informed decisions. There are many, many courses out there. There are many vendors out there. You can get online. You can go to the library. You can talk to other people. You don't necessarily have to buy a course. There's books in the library. And it's not rocket science. The major factor is that do it. That will be the difference. And just follow it. Yes, there will be emergencies. You can count on emergencies coming up that are going to throw your plan, knock it for a loop. Just back up and start over. So strike a balance between paying off your debt and building savings to create financial stability. In some cases, mom works and dad works. We have two jobs and we're stretched. And we're getting to the point where we're not getting the hours. Sometimes we have to do extra things to make some extra income. Find ways to make extra income. My daughter will, what is it? There's some website called Posh or Poshmark. She'll buy stuff at a resale shop and resell it on Poshmark. She makes a little extra money that way. I have another friend that does the same thing. He buys toy trains, and he resells them, and he makes extra money that way. Will you get rich from it? Not likely, but it can give you that buffer you need. And sometimes that will be the difference between that new water heater and wrecking your plan. So learn how to balance debt and building savings to create financial stability and resilience. Set clear goals. Establish specific measurable financial goals that include debt reduction and savings targets and charitable giving aspirations. We have many ministries at Final Frontiers, and many of those you can set up a monthly payment and just send in this month, or for right now, $10 a month. That can go a long way. That can go a long way. We just set up 2 wells in a different country, and I don't know what the wells cost, but they aren't, it's not, give me an idea, it's not thousands upon thousands of dollars. Those wells can be done for relatively inexpensive, is that right?
Yes, depending upon the country, those ones in Kenya typically run around 3,000-ish, depending upon what they've already set up.
Okay.
But basically, it's getting the remaining equipment like a solar panel and a pump, battery, and then sometimes erecting the storage tank.
So 3,000, let's say 4,000. And if I'm giving $10 a month, they're giving $10 a month, and they're giving $10 a month, it adds up. And in no time at all, we can make a big dent. And many of us, $10 is what we can do. But do it. Just do something. $5 a month. Get the kids together. Say, all right, kids, we want to help get the gospel to the world. Let's save up our pennies. Let's save up. Let's find ways. You know, when my kids were younger, this is going to date me. We would collect pop bottles and stuff like that, or we'd collect pop cans and take them in. That doesn't work that much anymore, but there's always ways to make some extra money. And there's so much online stuff now that some people make more money on a side job online than they do in their regular job. Not everybody does, but it's there. So just kind of keep your ear to the ground and ask God to help you. God, show us a way where we can get our debt under control. We can have our savings, and we can contribute more to getting the gospel. Start with $10, and then 3 months, 6 months, kick it up to 15, and make it a matter of prayer and ask God, please help us. And God will help. Yes, there's going to be setbacks. Yes, you're going to have failures, and you're going to want to give up. Don't give up. Just keep on your face before God. Next page. Balancing debt management and charitable giving. Prioritize debt reduction. Focus on paying down high interest debt first to free up more resources for charitable giving in the long term. So if you have a credit card and you're paying 22%, that's the one you want to knock out and focus on taking care of that one first. Yes, some of the other ones, just maintain them, but make a double payment. Credit cards are what they call revolving credit, and they are built to just keep going on and on and on. Whereas if you pay it down quicker, your debt will slowly decrease, and then you can pay it off. And bonus, it increases your credit score. Start small. Like we said, begin with modest charitable contributions while managing debt, and gradually increase as financial stability improves. Explore non-monetary giving. Consider volunteering time or skills to support charitable causes where financial contributions are challenging. You know, at your church, there's things you can do to help at the church. Mow the yard, stuff like that. Or you can contact Final Frontiers. What can we do? We don't have a lot of money. Are there things we can do to help? Well, maybe, I don't know. I'm just trying to fish for something. Help them send out envelopes, or, you know, address stuff. In today's, with computers and everything, that's not really that big of an issue. Again, I'm dating myself. Remember the old days where you could stuff envelopes and make thousands of dollars? But that was a scam too. So consider volunteering time and skills to support a charitable cause. And incorporate charitable giving into the long-term financial plans. Like it says, set up specific goals for increasing contributions as your debt decreases. As your savings increase, your debt decreases, and as your savings increase and your debt decreases, you can start increasing your charitable contributions as well and help get the gospel out. The power of $1 in many places of the world is incredible. It's incredible. And if I'm giving $1, Michael gives $1, Daniel gives $1, Susie gives $1, Pete gives $1, and we have several thousand people giving dollars. Wow, what an impact. What an impact. Next page. I think we're pretty close to.
I believe that is the last page.
Yep, that's what I thought. Okay. So the world is in debt. And I taught a lesson on charitable financing several months ago. You can even finance your charity. You know, you could even use your credit card to give to Final Frontiers, $10 a month, but pay it off each month. That's something to consider as well. That's something not I would do, but maybe you could do it. And, you know, if you have a credit card that's giving you points or miles for airline miles, and the more you use it, that's what my wife does. She has a Bank of America credit card. She pays our utility bills with that. She pays the phone bill, and then she pays it off instantly. She makes the payment with the credit card, and then the next day she pays off the credit card debt, but she's earning points. That's something to consider as well. We'll go into a little more detail next time. Debt is such a huge factor for so many of us. I want to spend a little bit of time on it. And what I don't want is, I don't want to throw a guilt trip on any of us because of you got credit card debt. We're taught to use credit card debt. We're taught, like I said, to maintain our credit score. And it's useful. The biggest issue is that when it starts managing us instead of us managing it. And then when we do come to a plan, we just got to make sure we follow through and have the discipline. That's where so many of them fall apart. We have emergencies that come up, or this, or we just get frustrated and tired of, you know, eating can labels, and we get frustrated and we go out and we buy a large screen TV. I worked with a guy many years ago, and he was the janitor where I worked, one of the janitors. It was a large municipality business. And I worked for the city, but he didn't. He was just a contractor. And he wasn't making that much money. And he bought a brand new large screen TV. He paid, I don't remember how many hundreds of dollars. And he took the day off from work to go set up the TV and watch. And on the one hand, you're going, what are you doing? You spend all that money. You talk about how you don't have the money, and then you took the day off. You forfeited all that pay so you could watch TV. And on the one hand, it's like, what are you thinking? But on the other hand, he works hard. And it gets to a point where you get frustrated and you do things like that. And yes, that can be a setback. And that's where the hard part comes in. Yes, there are thousands of plans out there. You can go to the library, you can find one online, you can buy that one, hundreds and hundreds of them out there. The main thing is find a plan and stick with it, even when it gets hard. That's where the difference comes in. So I think that's it for now.
Right.
It's a big topic. So
Yes.
Good information. I think it's very pertinent
good.
nowadays. It's It's hard on a lot of people.
It is. And especially, well, like we just had hurricanes come through. How many people are losing jobs because of that? Because the business didn't go out of business. It's not even there. It's gone. The store is gone, the parking lot is gone, the road is gone, and some of the people are gone. And how do you come back from that? So that's why I'm saying I want to try to help encourage people and give them some hope. And yes, it can be done. It's not easy, but it can be done. And many, many people have succeeded at it. Yes, many people have failed. But whatever we can do here to help, we're happy to help in any way that we can. So,
Man.
questions, comments, complaints?
Nope, none of those. Great introduction. Looking forward to the follow-up, or I guess we'll get some more details on specific areas.
Yeah.
Yeah, that will hopefully, Lord willing, be next month, barring any other natural disaster heading our way.
Any hurricanes, blizzards, tornadoes.
God help us.
Yeah.
Don't want a blizzard. Shouldn't be in Georgia.
I have to worry about a blizzard. You may not have to.
If we have a blizzard, then it
Yes.
It's off.
yeah.
Game over. I'll just stay up here, yeah. So, it does seem to be shifting a little bit. Our weather up here, it's been in the 60s and 70s for like 2.5 weeks. Sunshiny, very little rain. It did rain the other day, but for the most part, sunshine and 60s, 70s. And I'm like, wow.
It's unseasonably cool.
Yeah. So we may get that Indian summer and the aurora lights. We get to see the aurora lights, and there's a comet. I think we missed that one, but so interesting. All right, well,
Thank you everyone for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Look out for our social media posts and emails so you can get signed up for that. And until then, may you all have a wonderful afternoon and a great weekend.
yes, thank you. Have a good weekend.